Welcome to the Unraveling Onion Podcast.
Isaac, you never don't have anything to talk about.
Welcome to the Unraveling Onion. Today's episode is us just winging it because I'm tired and we've been busy all week and we haven't really been able to develop a plan, but also we want to get better at this. So I'm happy you're listening. Thanks for listening. And we're going to talk about things that are kind of on our mind lately. We have a lot going on in our world with so many changes. Some we can talk about, some we can't right now, but we're excited to move forward. And Chelsie kind of got me from wanting to take a nap to force me to do this podcast today, even though obviously I don't need to be forced, but today I kind of did. And I think it's really cool that you looked out after me today to make sure I do this, even though I'm not fully prepared. And, you know, and I think a lot of people run into that issue. I mean, I just wanted to take a nap. We just got done doing a 2-hour hike.
Yeah.
And
a picnic.
I was traveling this week. I got the luxury of going to the Grand Canyon. Apparently we're covering a new story about people falling off. And
So if you go to the Grand Canyon, don't fall over.
somebody fell into a volcano too.
What?
And I think he survived.
What?
Yeah, so that was kind of our lead in to our story.
Did you interview him?
No. We just did the Grand Canyon safety story about...
Wait, was he burning? Did he burn from the lava?
I didn't really dive into that story. I just overheard it as we
You
were...
can't tell me that story, not any information.
Well,
That's crazy.
Well, I mean, hey, I got to go to the Grand Canyon, so that's cool. So I guess...
Be careful with your selfies.
You know, I think a lot of people that listen to this probably are, you know, have something they want to do and they run into these roadblocks of insecurity and lack of motivation and how do you move forward, or, you know, why don't I do it when I'm more in a mental headspace? And today was one of those days that I wanted to like put that roadblock up there saying, I'm not ready. I'm not in the headspace. And you pushed me out of it. And I think that's the role of your partner in general. When you're looking for one and when you have one, I think you got to keep that in mind as somebody has to get you off your butt to motivate you if it's not you, because it's not going to be you every day. It's just not. You need that life alarm clock, the one you kind of get annoyed with for them calling you out and you slap it on the head, but you kind of, not that I slap you, but.
No, I'm actually I'm pretty blunt about it. I'm pretty bad at calling you out on things, only because I know your potential and I want you to be the best and strive to be the best person that you can be.
That's what's interesting about potential. I mean, I think that's what a relationship's about, is seeing each other's potential. And I think that's where like this meta spiritual idea comes in when it comes to a relationship. It's this idea of trust, an idea of a promise, an idea of seeing each other's potential. I mean, those aren't facts. That's not going to be something you can find in a science book. And so when you hear about these debates about science versus religion or spirituality, you can't ignore these narratives in people's lives that we live. We just make every decision we ever make is based on these narratives of, hey, I'm going to make a promise to you. Is that a fact? Is a promise a fact? Is it something tangible? Is potential something you can tangibly like lay out in front of somebody's eyes? Where's the science in that? There isn't science, and that's where my biggest struggle is. I am a huge science guy. I love it. Love science. I've been Mr. Big Bang, and I love all evolution. I appreciate all the work that has been done. You think about every little fact we know about wood splinters or geology and rocks or space.
There's
or
somebody that
light
takes the
particles.
time to
There's
dive into that.
not only that, but there's somebody that devoted their whole life to learning about like one photon or one piece of, you know, they went and foraged the woods to find a new type of bark beetle.
Or that guy that does all of the mushrooms.
Yeah,
Just,
there's a guy that does,
scourges for mushrooms.
and like,
How do you know this information? Like somebody, I mean, thank God there's people out there like that, because that's not me.
But we need people like that. And because those are the true seekers of our world. And they came back with something that actually like connects with something else. And a lot of times they connect with other things and they connect with other things. And you think about everything going on with science. It's like you can connect geology to astronomy. You can connect it to essentially any chemistry. You can carbon date things to, you can anthropology, anything you can connect every science to every field. And now we're starting to see those sciences connect to religion. Ideas like fasting, ideas like
meditation,
prayer, like let's just talk about these things and how science and religion is kind of connecting. And this is what's really, really the seeker in me, the seeker of knowledge in me has really been kind of faced with this last year. I think I've kind of wanted to revisit this religion thing, and because there's ideas in there and narratives in there that science just can't give you the details on. They can give you an idea of how there are so many narratives out there that better us as we've evolved to survive, and I get that, but those are still narratives. And what are those? Those narratives are not tangible, observable things. And let's just talk about some of those things. Like, for instance, prayer.
Or good vibes, whatever you want to call it.
Sending good vibes, prayer, or just visualization in general. Put whatever label you want on it. But the idea of thinking about tomorrow, what it potentially could be, and trying to connect thoughts about anything to a more positive thing than maybe what it was connected to in the past. A lot of times when we have relationships or we have any kind of experience in the world, I've had a lot of experiences in my life, and some of them have been negative and some of them have been positive. Now, a lot of people can connect. They can look at something and they connect it to their past. And it brings them to this idea like, okay, every time I look at that thing or see a person like that or come across a situation like this, I connect it to that really bad time. But prayer and visualization and meditation, all these things are about connecting those neurons to something in the future. An idea of a better future instead of connecting those ideas to a negative past. And there's science now showing that backs it up. I mean, we hear about people that are dying, and those people with positive outlooks are the ones that survive a little longer. They can carry through cancer. They can put a smile on their face in their last days. And I'm not saying that goes for everybody, but there's some kind of energy there. And there's a guy who's actually talked about it, about how we can, the more we can connect ideas to positive affirmations of the future. For instance, there's meditations you can go to sleep to where it's like, you are great, you are loved, you are a powerful force. Well, if you keep telling your brain that subconsciously, at some point that's going to act out when the time comes for you to act on those certain ideas.
Yeah, and then we actually have science now that tells us about how emotions actually affect our gut health and our overall health when you have guilt or unforgiveness, and how that actually festers in your body. And there's science to back that up. So it's, it's kind of that same thing.
I mean, when you're holding on to something, what science is that? We all know what it means when you're holding on to baggage, when you're holding on to hate. We know that there's something toxic inside us that we're carrying with us with that weight of negativity. And we know what the weight of negativity feels like. But where are you going to put that in a science book? Mm-hmm. And so to ignore that it's a process that isn't talked about in science. It's like this whole nother realm of actions you can take to better your life in an abstract. It's abstract. Everything about it is abstract. It's not something you can put A plus B. If you're in this situation and you do this, it will be better.
I mean, except for like exercise and healthy diet. Those are,
yes, but we're talking about like the narrative of exercise of, hey,
right,
by working hard at anything, you will come out a stronger person. Literally anything. You can work hard at something and you will improve. And that narrative strives to exercise, your relationship, your job, any kind of narrative you can think of. If you put in the work that sucks, because guess what? It's not going to be, it's not fun to do the things that you need to do to better your life. You need physical movement in your body, and it's not fun to necessarily go running around the block, but will you feel better after you run around the block regularly? Yeah. Same with brushing your teeth. Every little thing you put the grunt to work into, you will better your life overall throughout time. And so it's about life being hard. It's not about, I once heard a phrase and it was super awesome. It's like, the grass isn't greener on the other side. It's greener where you water it. And I
like that.
And you got to consider that when you're doing anything. You got to water your relationship. You got to water your body. Obviously, that's a shower, but
you got to put water inside your body.
Yeah, put water inside your body. But that idea of watering the grass is how you're going to have green grass, is the mentality you got to have in your relationship. And that's a narrative. That isn't a scientific fact on every... God, I hate saying that word. I'm not going to say that word anymore. I'm just... Obviously, podcasting... Maybe it's
your new coining. Can we do a hashtag?
Scientifical?
Scientifical. This is very scientifical. I think that is our new hashtag.
So let's just talk about some of these other narratives that are pretty interesting out there, because, another narrative that's been interesting is like God. Well, okay, let's just say you don't believe in God. All right. Which is I was kind of agnostic. I didn't know, and I knew I didn't know. And I kind of went Socratic a little bit, where you just say, I know I'm the wisest of them all because I know I don't know. And it made me feel good inside, but now I'm hitting this point where the idea of potential, for instance, when I say you don't live up to your potential to somebody, they know what that means exactly. They know what that means. They said, because potential is this idea of if you acted in the best way you possibly could and made nothing but the right turns to get to where you wanted to go. But we all know we're not perfect. We know we're all making wrong turns. We know we're all being a little more lazy. We all know we don't want to do that next podcast because we don't feel like it. So we make excuses for ourselves. And we know if we would just own up to our actions and be a little more motivated, that we would be a better off than where we were.
Well, don't you find that it's easier for other people to see what your potential is more than you?
Oh, yeah.
I wonder why that is.
I think because you feel the weight of all the reasons
why you can't.
Why you can't.
And your inner mean girl. That's how you say.
Your inner mean girl. And yeah, you're so critical of yourself. And I think that's what this new podcast is kind of been my challenge. I heard on Joe Rogan, it was who's oh gosh, what's his name? The really smart guy on Joe Rogan that we were talking about.
He has so many smart guys.
Oh yeah. Anyway, he brought up a quote, and his name's going to come to me. But he brought up a quote. He says, criticize yourself by creating. And the only way I'm going to get better is by doing it. And when we talk about potential, you're never going to seek your potential if you let every reason there's always going to be a million reasons to not do anything. To anything you want. Anything you want to do, if you want to get a better job, you want to learn guitar, there's always going to be our friend's going to, our friend's now traveling Europe. And when we initially talked about it, she's like, I don't think I could ever do that by myself. And I'm like, there's always going to be a million reasons for you to not do something. And that same goes with this podcast. And the same goes with every goal that you guys at home or listening to this now are considering. It's like you have a goal out there and you have a million reasons of why you can't get there.
But that's why it's so important you surround yourself with friends and family and significant others, boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, that is going to push you to realize that potential and not just let you swim around in what you've been doing day in and day out for the rest of your life, because that doesn't get you anywhere either.
You want people around you that see your potential, and when you act on that potential, even if you're not perfect, like this podcast is not perfect yet. I don't know if it'll ever be. I don't even know where it stands in the test of time against all other podcasts, or if even anybody will listen to it. However, I'd like to think that I'm surrounded by friends that whether they listen to it or not, which I hope they do, but if they do, they listen to it and then they hear what's wrong with it, which is fine. But then they give me criticism and they don't try and pull me down saying this is not for you, or they're going to make it sound so I'm like silly or I'm ridiculous for even trying. And there's just going to be people out there that are naysayers that want to pull you down and think and want to laugh at your scientifical words. And you know what? I'm not perfect at speaking, and that's part of my insecurity with all this. But I do have the potential to be great at something. And I really love talking. I really love it. And I'm going to do everything I can to study how to be a better speaker, how to run these podcasts so they don't stress me out, because right now it's so early in the process. I'm like, okay, how do I record? How do I set up the mics? How do I set up the camera? What else can we do? How do we prep a podcast? Because I don't even know how to lay out, okay, podcast episode 1. We're going to talk about this and this and this, and it's going to feel natural. And it's like that. I don't think that's how they do it. So I'm trying to find this rhythm of trying to make this feel natural. And I think what's cool about this idea of potential is it's a spiritual idea. Some people label potential God. God is this ultimate good, this ultimate, the ultimate aim. You aim up, you do your best, and you reach, and that idea personified is God. Doing the right thing every time, working hard, treating others as if you want to be treated. The guy that says, hey, these are good ideas, the guy who orchestrates that and says, hey, everyone, treat everybody how you'd want to be treated. That simple idea out there, somebody came up with. Now, just because you don't want to label him God, you don't want to label him this. Some people go to yoga. Some people go to, different philosophies to have that same mindset, but they have a philosophy, and that philosophy is spiritual. It's not a science to say, hey, if you aim up, that's how you'll do better. And that's just not, there's no science to that. And I'd love to hear anyone that had any points on that, because that's the one thing I'm finding. I follow all these great thinkers, science and spiritual. And Neil deGrasse Tyson, Jordan Peterson, Sam Harris, Brett Weinstein. There's just so many great thinkers that talk about this for hours, but ultimately it takes a leap of faith to think about this idea of tomorrow, and to think that there is this realm of making steps to get to that place. And that realm, if you can just hold on to it and you grasp onto it and say, I am going to forever have in mind this set of rules that when this comes upon me, I will know when to turn right and when to turn left. And that goes with my relationships, that goes with my passions in life, that goes with everything I could possibly think of. And the people that are comfortable with those right turns and left turns, some of them are religious, some of them are not. But the ones that are not, they have their own layout of rules that they know where to turn left and right. Now, what are they grounded in is a different question. Are they grounded in a set of ideas that they think are permanent no matter what? Or is those ideas negotiable? And I think the religious people might say, my ideas aren't negotiable. And I will always know which way to turn. And people that don't have that aim. Because, and they might. I'm not over here trying to say if you're not religious, you do not know how to aim up. That's not what I'm saying here. I'm saying that if you aren't religious, how will you know which way is up in every circumstance if there is not an ultimate line in the sand? And the ultimate meta line in the sand is how you will act in every situation across time. And how will you know if that's the right decision? Now, it's not even a matter of if you know, but if you have a Bible that's the guidebook. If you don't have a Bible, then you got to make your own book.
Well, yes. But I'm curious about, you weren't raised in any kind of religion or spirituality per se, or the Bible, and yet I feel like you still had an awesome moral compass. So what would you describe that as different to now?
I think I had this idea. I think, just as a background for everyone listening, Chelsie and I met when I was, how old was I? 17, 18?
You just turned 18. I was 15.
And you were 15. And I was very much on the road of, I criticized religion.
George Carlin.
I was obsessed with George Carlin. I was very critical of religion. And when I say critical, I was a very outspoken critic of religion.
And I was very religious, grown up in a Christian home my entire life.
And I mean, that probably was part of the reason that we broke up. In a lot of ways is because, we had a great relationship in high school because we were high school sweethearts. But I think I always felt that I did not want her resenting me because I knew I wasn't on the religion bandwagon and you were. And I didn't ever want you to resent me for not coming to religion when it was so important to you.
Mm-hmm.
Now
and my family.
Yeah. And now fast forward, gosh, how many years now? 15. Fast forward 16 years. And I've kind of been on this agnostic bandwagon, and you've been kind of taking a step back from the religious point of view. And, I think we hit this point where we just go when it's church time. I mean, and Christmas and Easter, we'd go to church and do the visits, and that was fine.
Yeah, I had a bad relationship with church after a while. Going off to college, I went to a Christian college. And yeah, I think things just changed. I think a lot of the world just didn't feel like I could trust what I was hearing and seeing. And I don't know, I didn't like the perception and the persona of these people.
They weaponized the word of God against you.
Yeah.
Well, and
in many ways, yeah.
And I kind of got introduced to Jordan Peterson, and he kind of just built this idea that, the structure of these stories and these narratives are what guide our lives. We even if you don't believe in God, we all act as if we do. We all feel that our actions, whether they're seen or not, are accountable to some idea that's way bigger than us. If you kill someone, if you do something evil, even in private, you have some inkling of accountability that might prevent you from doing that.
Well, those are the people that fester, right? Even if nobody witnessed you doing harm or, something terrible and awful, you feel it. You feel it in your gut, and it just festers in your body, and you just can't you have to eventually tell somebody because the guilt weighs on you so heavy. And what is that, right? If you're not answering to anybody, why would you feel guilty for doing something?
Well, and I think when you teach your kids lessons about how to act, you're teaching them stories. And that's the most simplistic way. You can't just give a kid a definition of be kind and expect them to be able to act on it. You have to show them examples of narratives of kindness and show them narratives of the bad guy and the good guy. And then you get, as they get older, those narratives get more complex. They actually dive into each other a little bit. You see the hero rise and fall, and you see the different methods of how the hero can exist and how the villain can exist. And you see all these narratives as they grow up. And when you talk about the history of the greatest ideas, for instance, like being kind, we just had Easter, and Jesus has all these great ideas about how to be with other people and how to be humble and how to, be kind no matter what class, no matter where they are in life.
How to just love and be accepting even when people around you do not love.
And let's just say you don't believe in Jesus. that's still a good idea. And maybe he wasn't the first one to think of. But you know what? We don't have the author before him. And maybe we do. And maybe you know who that is. And you can think, you know what? He got dibs on that idea. Or maybe you just, heard Tony Robbins last week, and Tony Robbins gave you that really good idea. But they're all good ideas, and ideas have been going way back since the beginning of time, and we should listen to those ideas that have shaped civilization. They have shaped all of civilization. We are not extinct. And how many percent of animals are extinct that have ever lived? A lot of them. But we aren't. And it's because we had these ideas that shaped our whole existence on how we should treat other people, how we should, find a way to have peace in the same room, which has not been a thing that we've been able to do throughout time. It just hasn't. We're now in a new time where we're the most free, we're the most, we're thriving, we have everything we could possibly need. And no, it's not perfect. Our political system isn't perfect. Nothing's perfect. But we stand on the shoulders of giants. Great minds have allowed us to get here. And now that we're here, we got to remember them and find out why we got here. There's this idea of, if you see a fence, I forget whose idea this was, but it's like if you see a fence, there's two mindsets you can look at it. You remove the fence saying, what the heck's this doing here? Or do you ask the reason, why was this fence in place? And you want to seek that answer. And then I think we're losing touch with some of those ideas of why did we have these ideas in the first place? And some of those ideas may be controversial today, but we still got to ask those questions. And religion, I know it's a contentious idea, but you don't have to be religious to believe in an idea bigger than yourself. And some people just put a different label on it. And some people call it religion, and some people think it's just natural logic and reason, which is interesting because most of history, there have been more unkind people and more craziness. It's not a natural instinct for us to be able to just be civil in the same room and watch a concert or watch someone speak. Like that is not a normal thing that has existed throughout history. We have had a lot of death, a lot of wars, a lot of things that have mistreatment of people. And were we perfect back then? No. But there was still an idea that carried through, that we just expanded on. When the founders of our country, we thought, all men are created equal. Well, that was a great idea, but did they have it perfect? No, they still did slavery, but they still had that idea. The idea is what was the good idea. And the idea, even though they didn't have it perfect, like you do in your relationships, we have this idea of how you need to act in the home. Am I perfect? No, but guess what? Over time, I'm slowly getting there. And same with this country. Were we perfect when we started? No. And we're just slowly getting there. And we learn that we got to encompass more and more kindness through this great idea. And I think that's a religious idea is, hey, here's an idea. You're not going to be perfect at it. But if you keep working on it, it will come natural to you. And obviously you're going to run into some things that you're going to have to negotiate and work out because of how politics and today's culture and all these things work out. But if you practice this daily, it will carry when the stress hits you or when you're too tired to get up and do your podcast. There are ideas that are going to get you out of bed in the morning or get your butt up or make you be kind to your loved one. And if you just practice those as much as you can, it's not about the arrival of being perfect. It's about that realm I was just talking about earlier. There's a realm of a process of aiming up. I'm not going to be perfect today at podcasting, but if I let that get in my way, I won't ever get better because I'll never do a podcast. So it's about me taking these little steps. Instead of taking that nap, instead of being lazy, instead of waiting to be more prepared, take those little baby steps and just do it and go face your dragon. Another meta story. Face your Goliath. Name any fairy tale or Disney movie, whatever. Everyone has their bad guy that they have to face. And it may not be a person. It may just be yourself getting out of bed. And that's
out of debt, or in your
debt.
job, or
Debt is your
health.
dragon, your Goliath. Those are all everything is a battle. And life is just a constant burden. And what your choice in life is when you're young is you got to start picking your burdens young. You got to say, okay, what burdens do I want to carry? Not how can I avoid burdens? That's not going to get you anywhere, because then you're going to get burdened by something you weren't really interested in getting burdened by. And when we talk about young people making good choices, they don't want to think about what their burdens are going to be. They're trying to avoid them at all cost. And then they wake up one day and they're 10 years into a marriage they were halfway into in the beginning, and they're at a job that they just kind of thought, oh, I'll skate through college and do what I like doing. And then they wake up 10 years later and they're like, what was I doing? Because they weren't worried about picking a burden. They were worried about having fun throughout the whole way.
The easiest path.
The easiest, smoothest, funnest, however you want to frame it. They picked a path that seemed the most convenient for them at the time. But if you change that mindset when you're approaching a relationship and you're approaching a major and you're approaching a career, and you say, hey, I'm gonna have lots of burdens in my life. Which ones do I want? Like, do I want the burden of kids? Do I want the burden of taking on the role of being a husband? Not a matter, do I want to love someone forever? That's not what a marriage is. A marriage is, do I want to take on the burden of supporting this person no matter what? And being the reliable step or be the reliable person in their life that gets them out of bed and makes them excited to get out of bed and pushes them out of their comfort zone and challenges their ideas so that they become a better person overall. And I would be watering the grass. And that's what it would be doing, is you're watering the grass. That's the burden you're picking. And when you're picking your career, do I want to water this grass and keep it green, even though it's grass? Even though it's not, even if it doesn't feel important all the time, you got to do it or something dies. And if you let your relationship die a little bit, you let your career die a little bit, then you're not that reliable person. You're just not. And your role changes.
Not everything is going to be up here all the time. Everything is going to have those hills.
But you still got to water the grass.
Right.
You still got to say, hey, you know what?
You got to realize that there's going to be some tough times in your job and some lulls and whatnot, but it's your job to make sure to kind of keep it going.
And that's the other narrative we could dive into, is like this guy named Jesus. Well, he's that ultimate good dude. Now call him, like I said, think of the ultimate good guy that you would like to be your friend. Well, okay, some people call him Jesus. Some wear the WWJD bracelet and they go with that. And they say, hey, that's the guy I want to aim to be. That's the guy I would like to feel that I'm worthy of hanging out with. The ultimate good dude. Now, you may have a different idea of the ultimate good dude, but I think that idea of aiming to being that ultimate good dude or gal or whatever obviously anyone listening to this, there's an ultimate good idea. And there's the ultimate good version of you. And you know what potential is? Some of you know what, some people call that God. And you know what the ultimate good is? And some people call that Jesus. And some people, face their Goliaths, and some people, call them dragons. Some people just call them, obstacles, whatever you want to call them, put whatever label you want on it. But if if you keep in mind that those narratives are more real than these tangible facts that you get from science, then you'll know how to act when you face these major things in your life, because those turns in your life truly are the forks in the road. If you make a wrong turn in life, you will be on that path for a long time. And you may want to act like, oh, well, there's no God, there's no spirituality, none of this is even relevant, but you know what a wrong turn is, and you know how long that road can go. And that's just a narrative turn. That isn't a scientific turn. It's a narrative turn. You probably could have been more wise and made more wise decisions based on narratives that you see patterns in every favorite story you've ever listened to. So that's what my podcast is about, I guess. This is part of that step is, hey, I don't know what I'm doing. And people out there, I know that you have something out there that there's a goal you want in life. And gosh, we got to do this at nap time and our toddler is down, she's sleeping, and we got to make a decision that, okay, well, we could be the parents that say, oh, we're too busy to do a podcast. But we're making time. And that's all your goal is you're making time. Same with your relationship. A lot of you might think your relationship's going through some stuff, but what are you making time for? Not is there time for you to put romance in there, because time isn't going to just appear in front of you. You have to make time to keep the romance alive, to keep being that reliable person in your partner's eyes, to be that reliable person to your boss's eyes. You have to be that by making time, because you know what? You're not going to ever feel like doing it because we're tired. We got life. We got too many things going on. Suffering is happening to me all the time. I'm tired. I don't want to deal with life all the time because I would like to think that I'll be in a better mood to deal with it later. And I think everyone wants to go that route. We all think, oh, we'll be in a better framework tomorrow or next week, or maybe when I'm mentally there. And we just can't let that get in the way anymore, because those narratives in the Bible, in your Disney movies, in your fairy tales, in any story you hear, there is a moral of the story. And those morals of the story they're real. They are more real than real. And science, that as I'm facing this whole, I'm leaping in to this religion thing now. And it has been quite the discovery for us. And there's been a lot of things that have just spoke to us in everything we're going through with our relationship, the fact that we have a baby on the way, even our careers, our sense of home and what we need out of life. And I could go into details about that forever, but I'm not going to. We're just going to stick to this for now. And I want you to find something out there. If you're listening, find something out there that makes you passionate, and then decide what steps have to be done. Now, some people have that to-do list, and that to-do list that's potential. That's a prayer. That's an aim. That's God. Whatever you want to call it, label it whatever the hell you want to label it. Just pick that aim and go for it, because if you just let the fact that your podcast is going to suck, or the fact that you don't know if it's going to work out, or if you have the mental clarity to do it this time, guess what? The perfection process after you do it, and the idea of criticize by creating, is going to be how you get better. It's just to do it. When you think about comedians, they have this hardest job in the world. They have to go to different locations and try the same set, and then they tweak it and tweak it and tweak it for about 2 years until they finally do their HBO special. And that means they got to suck a lot. and they got to get booed off stage, and they got to hear people not laughing at their jokes over and over and over and over again. And that's the mind. I think about that all the time when I'm thinking about this podcast. I might suck. I might suck. I might suck. But I'm going to take the insecurities I have, and I'm going to find a way to perfect them a little bit. I'm going to take the approach a little differently so I have a better way to approach it. I'm going to make it a little easier on myself so I can not let that get in the way of me being frustrated on how to deal with the audio equipment and how to do with this. Maybe I'll buy better mics, whatever it is. I'll do these little baby steps, and then it will feel more like a rhythm. And if it feels more like a rhythm, then I can finally just say, hey, I'm going to pop in front of a mic and I'm going to talk because I got a rhythm. I got a message. I got an episode figured out because I've thought about it beforehand.
I think it's pretty cool, actually, because I do want to, I mean, you're always told to fake it till you make it, whether it's your career, typically in your job, or a hobby or something that you're doing. And I think that's ingrained in us to have the confidence and, put our best face forward and pretend like we know exactly what we're doing. And I think that's something really awesome with you, and what we're doing here is you see the vulnerability, and I think it's relatable. And I think that there's something humbling in the fact that, whether it's this or something else, you can have that that vulnerability and openness with people. I think that's really important.
Yeah, I mean, insecurity is not, I know people
Everybody
don't want to talk
has
about it, but it's in everybody. It really is. And even your top dogs that you would just think they're perfect, believe me, they don't think that.
You know how many jobs I've been in where, people, and this isn't just me, I know I've talked to several people, a lot of my friends are in this scenario where you get to a position in life or in your career where, people look up to you and they think that you're amazing at your job and what you're doing, and you just know so many things. And really on the day-to-day basis, every day I go into work thinking, I don't know what I'm doing. Because that's partly like I want to be better. I want to learn more, and I feel like I'm still lacking. So they may be correct in their version of how they perceive me, but it's always constantly like, I don't know what I'm doing. How did I get here? And I feel like there's so many people who feel that way, whether they're CEOs of a company or VPs or managers.
But that idea that you have on I want to be better, if that could feel more solid to you, you would want that. And I think that's why people turn to religion, is that idea of I want to be better than I am right now. And to think that there is an idea of potential that is clear on what turns I should make to get there is something tangible. And I know it's really easy to get all judgmental on religious people, but they just want to be comfortable in the turns they're making so they can get better tomorrow. And
most people, some people are in it for the wrong reasons.
Oh, I get, absolutely. I understand. But I think I have this idea the other day. It's like, some of those people like to bet on, if you're gambling, you bet on red and you win 80% of the time, they're going to keep betting on red. And they'll put $200 down, and sometimes they'll lose $200 and sometimes they win. But if they feel that betting on red is their lucky bet, let them go with that, because all they're doing is just banking on, hey, this is working out for me. And if religion's working out for someone, don't judge them for it. It's working out for them. They feel that they were better than they were yesterday because of religion. And some people have other paths. Some people have their religious path. Some people have their fitness path. Some people have their other religions that they believe in. And those paths work for them because everyone's trying to do is say, hey, I just want to feel that what I'm doing is the process it takes to have a better tomorrow. And I want tomorrow to feel more real, because that's potential. That's the aim for fulfillment and meaning, and that process of getting there is more important than there. It's the process that I'm actually taking the steps to better my life, that when that really crazy opportunity or that really crazy dragon in your life comes to you, you are so well equipped to handle it. And maybe you don't believe in God and you have your own system, and that's fine, because I was there with you not very long ago. But as I've, kind of turned towards religion a little bit, and I'm not even done with the Bible. I'm still reading it. I'm about a third of the way in. I'm learning that this is not about the man in the sky. It's about believing in a process that will bring you to a better place tomorrow. The place where when you think I am not living up to my potential, well, what the heck does that even mean? And here's a book that tells you, hey, you want to live to potential? Here's a concrete book that'll just tell you how to get there. And maybe it's not perfect, but it's not about being perfect. Again, it's a process. And the process is not about arriving. It's about the adventure. It doesn't matter where you're going. It's a matter how you get there and the steps you take on the way there, because you never arrive. The process that you'll find peace in doing and making the right decisions. So anyway, that's our baby crying. So that's how we're going to get our podcast kind of wrapped up. Anything you want to talk about? Because I've been kind of going hard on this podcast today.
We are on time crunch. It's time.
So our babies.
It's our cue.
That's our cue. Baby's up.
It's a good place to end.
It's a good place to end. Thanks for listening. And again, if you have comments on this is about us getting better, and it's also about talking about things that you want to talk about. And we'd love to find motivation that would sit well with everybody. And
even if it's critiquing Avengers Endgame week.
Oh man, that's like another 45-minute podcast. Anyway, thanks for listening. And we're just going to wrap this up, I think, right now.
Yep.
Baby's crying.
Peace out.
See ya.
A-Town.